Welcome to a 30-ish minute shoulder mobility strength heart opening class. So this is not a flow class. There's kind of a series of these physical focus classes that are not flow classes. But we will be using yoga primarily to open the space of the heart, open the space behind the heart, open the armpits, and strengthen the shoulders. And so some of you know that we're kind of looping this into fourth chakra anahata, heart space. And it might feel a little weird to talk about the shoulders so much when we're talking about that specific energy center. And the reason I wanted to focus here instead of a bunch of a bunch of back bending or heart opening, is because these arms are a big part. When I extend my arms, all of a sudden I'm extending the space of my heart. So just do this. Just extend your arms and just feel how much space your heart takes up now. And then what is right there on both sides, framing the heart in between those long lines of energy, are the shoulders. And for a lot of us, shoulder pain, shoulder tension, shoulder hypermobility, meaning we have too much movement in our shoulders, that is where things can get out of whack. And so the hope here is that when we're thinking about the heart and this plane of energy that we can expand beyond ourselves, that we can work on this space very close to the heart, the shoulders, and feel better and soften when they need to soften, strengthen, hold something or someone up when you need to strengthen, and really live in a space that feels a little bit more open and pain-free versus kind of holding on to this tension and just living with it. And that's what we don't want to do, is just live with it. So that's my spiel. One more thing, we are going to want something like a strap. In this case, the strap could just be a scarf or a belt, anything that you can just hold on to. We want to give ourselves room to have space. And then I have a nice fat block. You could do a tight towel roll, or we want something kind of thick because we're going to lay over it at the very end for some heart opening. A bolster would do, a firm one, or just anything that's kind of going to lift your heart up so we can have that final resting with a lot of space around our heart and our shoulders. So on that note, we're going to start with some very simple mobility and reach your, so stand with your feet a little wider. And we'll do some breathing once we get into the mobility to kind of ground. I want you to stand up, bring your arms facing each other and then facing away from each other as you sweep them back. So that's kind of slow. So we go up and then we twist the palms and then go back. Up. So this is where you can start to bring in some breath and allow yourself to ground a little bit. Landing right here. And if something hurts, I should say this right out of the gates. If something hurts, especially in the shoulders, that's beyond just, your muscles being tired or something, that's a place to back up and maybe talk to a PT or someone who has a little bit more clarity on what's going on in there. We don't want to push through pain in the shoulders. That doesn't do us much good. Other directions. So now you're going to keep those palms out and then kind of dive them in. So try to kind of keep the palms facing out. You still have to twist the wrists at the bottom. But I find kind of directing the palms helps us really mobilize the shoulders in a way that we don't when we're not thinking about the facement or the direction that the hands are facing. Almost feel like you're kind of swimming in space, clearing some space out for yourself. 2 more. And then do a little bit of asymmetrical movement and a little bit more free. Because I sometimes feel like when we're so particular, we miss something. So what's kind of lingering on the sidelines? I'm adding in a little bit of movement in my rib cage as well. And I didn't really talk about that at the beginning. But our rib cage is not very mobile intentionally. It's there to protect our organs. But it feels good to mobilize it a little bit and get some of that sticky stuff out. When you're ready, go ahead and turn so that you can come into downward facing dog. And I want you to, we're going to stay here for just a little bit of time. I want you to take your time to push your hands into the mat. Index fingers, if you took all the other fingers away, you would see 2 index fingers parallel like the number 11. Lift your hips. Let your head hang. And so as you're pushing your index fingers down, I just want some engagement around the frame of the head through those shoulders, arms, and hips lifting higher. We don't need to do anything too much here. I just want to feel that frame, that structure that holds you. Good, and then go ahead and kneel down. And we'll do again just a little bit of kind of loose. So I'm just kind of shrugging the shoulders and shaking out the arms. Okay, so we're going to go into something. I'm going to give you 2 options. So we're going into a little bit of strength. So we'll kind of, what you'll notice in this class is we're going to dance between some strength and mobility. And so the first option is with your knees down. Everyone's going to do the same hand placement. You're going to bring your hands together like a triangle, or truly making a triangle with your index fingers and your thumbs. And so what that means is your hands are turned in a little bit. And so if you are working through something, generally downward dog doesn't feel very good on you, whatever, you can just bend your elbows and then straighten. So your knees are down. Most likely you're inhaling down and exhaling. And that gives a nice amount of kind of stability. If you're available to lift your hips, lengthening your legs into a downward dog, you do need to kind of make sure you're really in a downward dog and you're not rounding somewhere. So I'm going to make that happen by lifting my hips, letting my head hang. And then imagine that your ears are on a track with your arms, and you're going to bend your elbows and straighten back up. And now all of a sudden that feels pretty intense. Going to bend. I can't really talk while doing it, so inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do that was about 3. See if we can do up to 10. That's 5. Two more. Good. Go ahead and drop down and take a child's pose where you can really rest. So I feel a lot of heat in the body. Really just kind of, to me, that was not only strengthening, but mobilizing in the shoulders. And that heat helps with movement. Go ahead and come on up. Do a couple cow cat. Drop belly, heart open, and then round. Inhale. more. Good, and then go ahead and bring your forearms down. I'm actually going to use my block here. It's not necessary, but this way you can, if you're using the block, you can keep your two forearms more or less parallel. And so we just did a cow cat. So go ahead and do another cow cat with your forearms down here. So you'll exhale, push, inhale, drop, exhale, push, inhale, drop. Good. Good. And then go ahead and come into neutral spine. And now instead of your cow cat, what I want you to do is I want you to inhale, drop, just straight down. Exhale, push, just shoulder blades. Inhale, drop. Exhale, push. So there's no more rounding flexion of the spine anymore. Now we're working just the shoulders, the space around your heart, the space behind your heart, pulling that all together. So do a couple more of these. Good, and then once again, slide back into whatever feels good for a child's pose. And again, just kind of add a little bit of that free movement that, like I said before, kind of catches something on the sidelines. Good, come back. So we can consider, even though that last one was also strengthening, we can consider that one more mobilizing, and this one will be more strengthening. So for this one, we can once again bring the hands kind of together. If you want the palms touching, that's good. I'm going to keep my hands flat. And then start with the knees down. We're going to seesaw forward and back. So we want to be able to kind of get pretty far back and then move pretty far forward. Back, forward. So obviously your hips are moving this along, but see if you can keep your chest shoulder line on the same plane. So it's not your shoulders that are going up and back. And if this feels pretty good, stick with it. Otherwise, take a pause. We do need to reset. Go ahead and lift the knees up. Same thing. We want to be pretty far back, but then we want to come pretty far forward. I'm going to inhale back. Exhale forward. Maybe put those palms together if that feels better. Keep going. Let's do about 3 more. Last one. Good, come on down. So what I mean when I say come down, bring your hips down. Come into a Sphinx pose, and I'm adding just a little bit of mobility here too. Letting some of that movement flow out. So there still can be flow in the body even when we're really specific. The energy never goes away. Good. So we'll come up into hands and knees to start. Make sure your straps within hand's reach. And then step your right foot forward. You're going to hold the strap in your left hand, and I've got a really long strap, so I'm just going to kind of hold half of it so that I don't lose it. So hold it in your left hand, right foot forward, left arm up. Bend that elbow. Start by just pushing your head into your left forearm. And then take your right hand behind and breathe here. So I generally, not every single day, but most days, I can clasp hands. I can clasp my two hands together in what we would call a Gomukhasana bind. That being said, I'm looking for some space. So I've got a pretty big space between my two hands. And I'm okay with that for now. If you feel no stretch in either shoulder, then that would maybe be a time to walk your fingers a little closer to each other. And I just did that, and now I feel even a deeper stretch now in the right shoulder. Mostly I felt it in my left before. So we'll just stay and linger for a couple breaths. 2 more breaths. Good, release. Ooh, that was loud. I'm going to go into a downward facing dog to just get some space into the legs, a little pedaling, and then add a little bit more hip movement so that some of the shoulder movement comes in there. Step your left foot forward, drop your right knee. Once you are in your lunge, same thing, holding right arm up in the air, holding the strap. Take your left hand behind. You do want to bend that right elbow, so you're going to have to move your hand down the strap in some way. Push your head into your right forearm and start with a lot of space. And also kind of just notice, for me, there's also this component of stabilization through the rest of the body, holding us up, legs, core, hips, that foundation we've been talking about. And then if there's a little more room to walk those hands closer together, do that, and without making a big story about what I need to do to take care of it, just notice, where is the attention? Where is the energy? Where is the space? Where is the congestion? For me, it's right shoulder, both sides. And that's always really been the case. So just always work there. We give it more attention. We don't dwell on it. Take another breath. Good, and release. Once again, find your way into downward dog so that you can really pedal and swish and sway a little bit. And then inhale your right leg up. Exhale, send foot through to hands. You're going to drop your left heel down. Rise up into warrior one. So we're in a warrior one. Reach your arms up. Take a moment here just feeling here. We're standing, we're open, we're steady. Take an inhale, and on an exhale, it's left arm underneath. So because that right shoulder is always the tight one for me, it's always a little wiggling in. Make sure your feet are stable. If you need to widen your right foot, do so. And we're going to stand here in our eagle arm warrior one. So you don't have to do a lot with this. Sometimes we flow with this. Sometimes, there's something to do. And today, for this pose, I just want you to do nothing except for stabilize legs. And soften congested space around your shoulders, heart, and rib cage. Take another breath. Good. Inhale, reach the arms up just to feel that opening. Maybe spread your fingers a little wider. Where does the blood, the energy run through? How open does the heart feel when things are a little less sticky? Good. Straighten your right leg, pivot on your feet. We'll just do this pose on the other side. So find warrior one facing the back of your mat. Left knee bends, right heel grounds, arms up. Again, just take a moment in this pose. New pose, new side. Good. Take an inhale. On an exhale, it's right arm underneath. Find that eagle pose. Widen your left foot if needed. Once you're in here, see if you can do a little bit less maneuvering. And I didn't say, and I should have, that you don't have to do a triple wrap or a double wrap, however you want to think about it. You could just hold your hands to your shoulders. That's a great alternative. Stabilize through legs, core. Let the shoulders, heart, and rib cage naturally unwind. And sometimes unwinding feels like winding first. One more breath. Inhale, free up those arms. Once again, just stand, maybe widen the fingers. We're not doing a back bend, but the heart space feels wide open. The energy feels wide open. And that's the end goal, right? How do we clear up the congestion so those channels flowing between ourselves and others are more open? We have more room for empathy, compassion, attention to others. Good. Straighten your left leg. Check in that you feel pretty stable here. We're going into Parsvottanasana. That's the pyramid pose. If you feel like balance can get in your way, or you just don't feel like adding on, hands can be at hips. Another option is to hold wrists or elbow or forearms, keeping your hands behind your back. This is a great option. Final option for those who feel that they've got a little bit of room to press the two palms in a reverse namaskar, reverse prayer. Do that. Take an inhale, lift your heart up. An exhale, dive over left leg. Push down, relax. Really let go of those shoulders. All that tension that builds up. And I like this one. I love reverse prayer because it also gets all the way to our fingertips. That gentle twisting action throughout all the fascia. Our arms do so much every day. Take another breath. This time, just release your hands down into the fold and just kind of, if you need to bend the knee a little bit to let the hands kind of hang, or maybe pad into one hand and then the other. See if you can let the back of your neck hang more. Good, and then bend the knees. We'll just kind of walk over to the other side. Same thing, adjust the feet. We will come up to start. So find what will be a Parsvottanasana, also called pyramid pose setup. Something that feels stable and secure. And then same thing, hands could stay at hips. They could go into that forearm clasp, or palms touching together behind your heart. And I should have said this, if it's a wrestle to get those palms together, it's not worth it. Holding the hands at the forearms is a great option. Inhale, lift up, and on an exhale, direct the fold over your right leg. And just be. It's the same concept as some other places we've been. Stabilizing the bottom so we can mobilize the top. Take another breath before we release the arms. And then slide those hands down. And again, kind of just whatever works to give some mobility into the arms and a little bit of a release of that tense energy. And then going ahead and moving into downward facing dog. Movement or stillness, your choice. Then come on down onto your knees. I would like you to use that block. Actually, I'm sorry, I skipped one. So before we come onto the block, we're going to do kind of, in my opinion, I think Sphinx pose is the most important pose that we've done today. And I think this second one, sometimes called broken wing, will be the second most important, meaning if you can do just one, if you can do just two, how about these? So go ahead and lay on your belly. Bring your right arm out and take a look at it before you lay your head down. Your right hand should be in line with your right shoulder. And then place your head on the ground. And I've seen some folks who have really broad shoulders and they need a block underneath their head or a pillow. Don't let your head just hang here, because tension in the neck means tension in the shoulders, and that won't do us any good. So if you need support under the head, give it. But if you can have your head just down, great. And then you're going to push into the left side so that you can roll onto that flat, straight right arm. Maybe bend your left knee. And just take a couple breaths here. In my opinion, we can never stay long enough, and we won't be here very long. So just know that this is something to come back to. And I think the reason, again, that I love it so much is it taps into the arms as well. It gives us a heart opening, a neck softening, and all that fascia down your right arm gets a stretch, a reboot. Good, come onto your belly. Just take a moment, kind of lining up the spine. And then we'll go into left side. So bring your left side down, right hand down, roll, and breathe. And once you get here, just be. Couple more deep breaths. Good. Roll onto your belly again. Just take a quick pause. And now go ahead and find your block. So again, I've got a nice thick block, but I do this almost every day. So this would be your third everyday pose. And so this is the right height for me. If you've got a thinner block, great. If you've got a rolled towel, great. We want to kind of find a place where you get a stretch, but that you also feel that you can rest. So there's like a kind of a combination we're looking for. So we want our shoulder blades on the prop. So up here, it's sometimes, we think, oh, kind of like the lower or like the middle of the back, but we really want the shoulder blades, which are pretty high up. And so if I can think about it from the front, I want my collarbones kind of right on the top edge of the block, my head off the block and on the mat, my neck completely off the block, and then the space of my chest right here, my heart space right centered on the block. So that's what we're looking for. Go ahead and find that. And if you do have a bigger prop and you need something more underneath your head, grab a quick pillow or something else. You don't want your head just hanging. And I'm going to keep my knees bent so the feet flat and the two knees kind of falling together. And then the same thing, or the opposite with my arms. I want my arms kind of wide open and spacious, backs of hands resting on the mat or on the ground. So I like to stay here 3 minutes a day in the morning before I sit down to a computer. We won't be here that long. We'll be here more in the 1 minute range. So just breathe and allow. Just kind of take some awareness of your fingertips on your right hand. Kind of just think about all the communication your right hand had to do today. Did you have to write something, type something, text something. Traveling with a mouse maybe in your right hand. Just kind of follow the line from your fingertips, your palm, your wrist, through your elbow. All that energy you carried, it moved into your body somehow. Through your shoulder, give a little time to that shoulder. Soften, soften, soften. Through your rib cage, your energetic heart space, which is right the middle of your chest. And then your actual heart that's pumping, beating, keeping you vibrant and alive. Through your left rib cage into that left shoulder. Down through left arm, left elbow, left forearm, into left hand palm, fingertips, that place where you also communicated, you texted, you wrote, you typed, maybe navigated a mouse, maybe drove a car, maybe shook a hand, held a hand. All that energy. So we're trying to just open up more flow, more pathway, so it doesn't stick with us. So it doesn't live in the body, it just moves through. Take a deeper breath. Press into elbows to help yourself off the prop. And just kind of sit upright wherever you are. Let that space be really open, really free, really receptive. Thanks so much for being here.